You got it?
He had been released from Japanese prison camp, and Pussy Rossi had gone to Milledgeville, I guess, to pick him up at the bus station.
Percy?
Joby, I'm sorry.
Joby Rossi.
Joby Rossi.
And I was at the store with my mother, and we were waiting on some people, and there was two people out in that part of the county that my mother liked very much. One of them was Rufus Clopton, and the other one was Leon Manley. And I can tell you a little tale about Leon. But anyway,
you're not talking about Leon.
When we were standing there in the store, and he come out, and my mother threw up her hands and said, "Rufus Clopton!"
Oh.
I looked around and I said, "That's him." I remember. And she just went, they just danced around on the floor. And Pussy, Joby had gone and got him.
Wow.
And
Now the bus station didn't come to Eden. Didn't they say they went to Milledgeville or Macon to go
they
get him?
routed him probably down, where was he discharged from? Somewhere, Delaware.
Well,
No, because he
was in San Francisco and then he went to Oliver Hospital in Augusta.
Well, he came from Augusta down, the bus brought him to Milledgeville, more like.
yeah.
And he called Joby, because Joby had him, and he carried him on home.
He gained like 40 or 50
He had
pounds in
gained
the first.
45 pounds, I remember that, from the time he was released.
He weighed how much?
He had gained 45 pounds
Oh my
from the
goodness.
time he was released until he got there.
Yeah, and it was like 6 or 8 weeks, something like that.
Mother told me one day we were there, she says, I think his mother died while he was in
And he
service.
didn't know till he got back.
And Mr. Tom was still living. They had gotten a letter or a notice or whatever that he had been released and was alive from Japanese prison camp.
Right.
And he was talking.
He said he had figured out that he thought that she probably had died because he never heard anything about her or anything.
Yeah, well, I just remember her as a lady. Miss Minnie was her name,
Right.
Miss Minnie Clopton.
Right.
And then your grandfather was Tom.
Right.
He was a tall, slender gentleman. And I used to carry my old trucks and things, but Dad over with Walters to work on them, and he would be out there walking around and doing things. And Walter's Shade Tree Mechanic office down there.
Yeah. I've got a picture of my grandfather when it was 92 milking a cow.
Well, that's probably about right. Yeah, that's Tom.
I think that picture's up in the
Well,
place.
Kyle lived to
It
be
is.
92.
It is. Yeah.
Kyle was 92 years old.
Was it?
Frank was too.
Yeah, they all lived.
But anyway, Mother just screamed that was
Him
him.
on your track,
And,
but you want him on.
he was real red-faced.
You're not careful.
I don't know what was going on there. But anyway, they talked a while there, and then Joby carried him on home.
Well, that was a wonderful day, I know, for them.
Oh, it was, it had to be. It was
They had
beautiful.
some kind of reunion at Concord because Eva
I don't
Huckabee
remember.
found the
We went to
clipping.
Ararat
I'm not
Methodist Church. I didn't go
She
to
found a
Concord.
clipping down in her cedar chest one day years ago, and the family had never seen it before, and it came out of the Atlanta Constitution, and it showed Rufus in his uniform with these other women. There was like cousins from Atlanta or something that had come. They had a big cover dish luncheon at Concord in his honor to welcome him home.
Did.
And then you brought up about seeing him on the square with General Rainwright.
Yes. Who had him up there? I don't remember.
Dairy
the
Festival
or
There
something?
was a
Festival.
lady, was he married then? When he went up to the Dairy Festival? There was a Dairy Festival.
Was it right after the war?
I-
soon
Maybe it
after?
was celebrating the war being over.
We didn't have that.
But,
festival then.
I bet it was a
There was a lady
war-ending
walking
celebration
along
or
with
something.
Rufus.
Must have been something.
And we saw him and spoke, and General Wainwright was a so-called, what do you call him, marshal or whatever?
Grand Marshal.
Was a Grand Marshal. And he came on up to the courthouse on the west side. And Rufus, I believe Tom Gregory, or somebody brought Rufus on up there. And I was standing pretty close to him, and Rufus introduce Rufus to General Wainwright. And they talked a few minutes, and General Wainwright said, "Oh yeah, I remember you."
Wow.
From all that rigmarole in the South Pacific.
Well, they were captured at the same
Oh
time.
yeah. He said, "I remember you."
Yeah, about that.
That was something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That was something else. I'm
We
telling
met
you.
a guy, well, Sheila didn't, but a long time after my dad died, I met a guy. We had a friend that was very interested in the Japanese, the prisoners of the Japanese, and particularly the Georgia guys. And he really just befriended them in the veterans home in Dublin. He went over there to.
Well, his wife was from Dublin, wasn't she?
She was.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
was from
yeah.
Dublin.
It's good
But this
memory.
guy that we knew, he went to the veterans home just to minister to a guy that was there, and he got real. And that guy was a prisoner of war, and he got real interested, and he got to be close with a lot of them. But anyway, what I was going to tell you, he got us in touch with a fellow that was in the prison camp with my dad. And that man's name was Tiger Barnes, and he was from Albany. He's dead now, but I guess maybe it was 5 or 6 years ago. Patty and I went to see him, went and talked to him, and he knew my dad real well, because out of that group that was captured on Corregidor, they took 200 of them. You know, they captured thousands. They took 200 of them and made them stevedores at the pier at Manila.
Now, what is that?
A big long pier where the Japanese used it to bring supplies and stuff
In the Philippines.
in the Philippines. And they took just 200 men, and this guy and my dad were 2 of those 200.
200.
And so they were stevedores for about half of the war. And then the Japanese took all of them that weren't officers, everybody that was an enlisted man there. They sent them to Japan to work in factories and mines.
Rufus worked in
Lead mine.
unloading ships,
That's what he did in the
Tokyo
Philippines.
Bay.
Yeah.
And I heard him tell my mother and daddy that if the Japanese knew how many, they would put that, I guess that thing to pick it up off the ship and carry it out, that they had cut loose to drop in Tokyo Bay, so they'd have shot me right there, and I'd have fell in that too.
Yeah.
Because everyone that they could knock off,
Yeah.
they let it drop in Tokyo Bay.
Yeah.
Ammunition and stuff that was unloaded in the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. And he always said that when they were there in the Philippines, they, compared to other prisoners, they were pretty well off, because they sent them in the ships at night, and they were just guarded by one Japanese officer would be on the dock, and then they would send American officers in the ship to give commands to the prisoners and tell them what to do. Well, when they were in there, they would find ways to steal food. There were big bags of rice.
Yeah.
He said we would take straws, they were burlap bags, and stick them in the holes and get the rice to come out, and they'd have a sock, and the Japanese socks were long with no heels. They'd put that rice in the sock, and then they'd tie it between their legs. And they'd always get frisked when they came out, but most of the time they didn't get caught. If they got caught, they got beat pretty bad. But that's how they got extra rice. But then about halfway through the war, they sent them to Japan on what they called the hell ships. And
Stacked them in there.
it was terrible. Anyway, that man was with my dad at Manila, and then he was on the same hell ship with my dad and worked in the lead mine in Japan with my dad. And he still was just as sharp. He was 92 when we went to talk to him, and he was just as sharp as he could be. He remembered everything about the.
Oh,
He told us about what they did and everything, and we asked him at the end, we asked Mr. Barnes, how did you find out that the war was over? And he said, well, there was one day a week we didn't go to work, and that was Sunday. And when we didn't go on Monday, we knew something was up, because we went every day. And then the next day, he said, we went in the, and a bunch of the guards left too. And so we went into the Japanese commanding officer's office and asked him what had happened, and he said the war was over. And they wanted to go into town to get some vegetables. And they at first they wouldn't let him, but eventually they let him go.
Well, at first, a friend of theirs, a Japanese prison guard, I guess, told him it wouldn't be wise for him to go down there. They may get killed.
That's right. That's right. But they eventually let him go. And he said, we found an old Japanese guy with a wagon with a bunch of vegetables in it and a horse. And he said, we took all the vegetables and I rode the horse back to the camp and we ate him for supper.
Oh my goodness. Was that true?
Yeah.
I mean,
They were hungry.
They were that.
They were glad to get it.
They were that starved for good food.
That is.
But you said that guy told him, said, y'all don't want to go downtown, they may kill you.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
That's amazing that you remember all that.
Yeah.
He remembered your mother was from Dublin.
To me, but like I said, Rufus used to come out to the store a lot before he went in service. He volunteered to go in service. He wasn't drafted.
Right.
And Mother and Daddy, he sit there and talked to them and a little while. And it was always sort of exciting to me that I remembered it. Corregidor, the Death March, he wasn't in that, I don't think.
No, he was on Corregidor, and they heard that the Japanese were coming.
No, he was on Bataan.
That's right. He was on Bataan, and then he got over to Corregidor, but they fought him off for a month until they ran out of food and ammunition, and their officer says, we don't have any choice but to surrender. We have nothing else left to fight with.
And they just turned them all loose. They told them they were on their own, do whatever they could. And some of them got a boat and got to Corregidor. But then they got killed.
Boy, don't you know that was rough. Well, I guess they felt like, what have we got to lose? If they kill us, they just kill us.
Yeah.
But if we keep going and keep doing, there's a chance we'll survive this thing.
They always told, my dad said they always told us that no matter what happened in the war, that they were going to die, because if the Americans won, they were going to kill them. They told them that they were going to kill them at the end of the war. And if the Japanese won, they said they were going to be their slaves for the rest of the war.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they were slave labor of the Japanese army. He worked in the lead mines up until they were liberated.
You ever heard of Wallace Theory?
Yeah.